What's up, YouTube? John here, back with another video, and it is December 18th of 2025, and as usual, it is a crazy time to be talking about American politics, as we've had some crazy stories that have been happening this week, but one of the main ones that I wanted to talk about was something that happened on December 16th, where Trump had given a speech regarding the rise of anti-Semitism in not only the United States, but also the world. And really, with this video, I want to talk about racism in general and how I think that our current political figures are doing a bad job of combating it. For today, I wanted to react to Trump's speech regarding this.
As President of the United States, I will always support Jewish Americans, and I will always be a friend and a champion to the Jewish people. I have been. And I will say, if you go back 10, 12, 15 years ago at the most, the strongest lobby in Washington was the Jewish lobby. It was Israel. That's no longer true. You have to be very careful. You have a Congress in particular which is becoming anti-Semitic.
And see, that's the first problem with his argumentation here, is that this is preferential treatment, and that's even if you're a supporter or if you're a Jewish person and you support the involvement of AIPAC in the government, you have to ask the question, why in the United States is he talking about AIPAC in a preferential way as opposed to other countries? What's the problem with AIPAC no longer being the most powerful lobby in the United States? That's the question people are asking, and that's why they have such an issue with this. And that's why him giving preferential treatment like this is it's backfiring. And to bring up again the transgenderism debate that happened, you can see kind of similarities here in this kind of framing.
Of AOC +3, you have those people. Ilhan Omar, she hates Jewish people. And you have to be very careful because there's been a big change. If you go back 15 years ago, I'm not Jewish, but my father was very friendly with many, many Jewish people, was honored by Federation. I would go with him to Federation.
I can't be a racist. I've got black friends.
Of Jewish philanthropies and many other things. And we grew up respecting and loving Jewish people. You don't even think about it. In Brooklyn and Queens mostly. And my father didn't go to Manhattan. He never went to Manhattan from the standpoint. He could never understand how in Brooklyn you could buy a piece of land for $3 a foot and how in Manhattan you had to pay $1,000 a foot. He said, I can't get that. I don't like it. I like to buy it for $3. So it was different. It's a different thinking. In a way, I'm glad he didn't do that because he let me have some of that fun. And I had a lot of fun in Manhattan. We did great. But my father would tell me the most powerful lobby that there is in this country is the Jewish lobby. It's the Israeli lobby. It's not that way anymore. You have a lot of people in your way. You have a lot of people that don't want to help Israel. You have a lot of people in Congress that don't like Israel. You have a lot of people in Congress that, in a way, I think, Mike, we could say it, right? You're there. You're doing an amazing job, Mike Lawler. They hate Israel. They hate Israel. And if you would have told me 15 years ago that was possible, Jason, I would have said, there's no way. There's no way that's possible.
And you see what's really interesting about how he's talking about this is that, Trump was one of the main people that was against the woke DEI agenda. I mean, he was really beating this horse to death in a lot of his speeches. And, the main criticism against that kind of thinking was, the fact of if you're not with us, you're against us. It's if you look into these discussions online about Democrats specifically, people refer to the purity testing that happens where if you agree on 10 issues, or if you agree on 9 issues, but not the 10th one, that's an issue to kind of ostracize someone there. And, he's making this statement of there's a lot of people in Congress that hate Israel. If you look into this debate about, the involvement of AIPAC and whether we should disassociate from AIPAC or foreign governments altogether. This is an argument for isolationism, and that's in a response to, the growing nature of we citizens feeling like they're not getting enough back from what we're putting forth. So you can look at, for example, the amount of money we've given to Israel, to Ukraine. This money could arguably be better spent here and could help the people that are suffering here. The veterans, the homeless, we have a lot of problems that need to be solved domestically, and there is an argument to be made that these finances would be better suited to helping here. It's almost like, we're in recovery mode. We need all the help that we can get, and we need all of these things here. And for him to disingenuously say that anyone who is just against the Israel lobby in general just hates Israel, it's this grouping together of your opposition that I think leads to this compounding effect where it's almost like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So now all of these people that now are just against the Israel lobby might find an unintentional alliance with, for lack of a better example, let's just say the Groypers, because they're like Nick Fuentes, America First kind of group, because they're the ones that are, they have that stigma of being racist attached to them. So we're grouping the extreme with the more moderate. But my point with that is saying like these unlikely allies will compound and grow, and that is because of this. It's the nature of not engaging with this discussion of the Israel lobby and the amount of power that they have, and the ability they have to kind of shape and pull the direction of certain issues, such as the involvement of the US in Israel. It's like there are problems in other countries and wars in other countries as well, such as like Africa. I mean, there's wars going on all the time, but like Trump is literally saying it, Israel has historically been the most powerful lobby, and that's the criticism that we're getting. Is this isn't a coincidence here that he's acknowledging that they're the most powerful lobby, but we're going to bat for them almost any time that they need us, and vice versa. This is the root of the discussion that people are having here. And again, to reframe it and to give you a better understanding, you have the extreme people who, I will say that in quotations, where it is the extreme race-centered people that, are looking at race as the reason why we should separate. Because of these immutable characteristics, we should remove ourselves from Israel, from the Israel lobby. Then you have moderate people, and I would say this is where I personally fall into, where we can acknowledge the criticisms of being so closely involved with a foreign government, and how there's an argument to be made where we're putting a foreign country's agenda over the preference of our people. There is a growing segment of people within America that feel like, that are pushing for isolationism, essentially, that we shouldn't be involved with foreign countries to the extent that we are, and to ignore this group of people that aren't getting what they feel out of the country is a huge mistake. And in my other videos, this has been something I've discussed, where I think the best solution to combating this analytical race-based nature of America First and Nick Fuentes is to combat the issues that he's trying to solve. I think if you can find ways to restore the economy, to restore reasonable prices as far as cost of living, to restore hope in the future, and for these people that want to have a family, to buy a house, to fix these problems will also mitigate the amount of people that are focusing on race. I like to think of it like this. This is my example. It's like if you're in an elevator and there's a baby crying, you're not really as bothered by it, because at some point either you or the mother and the child are going to get off of the elevator. But if you're stuck in this elevator with the crying baby, it's like you never know when you're going to get off of the elevator. So this thing that normally would not be so problematic, you're focusing on it, and it's constantly on your mind. And this might not be the best example, but I think that these criticisms of race work in a similar way, where with people perceive that things are bad, they are going to microanalyze and nitpick at every little thing. And if these things are solved, then this nitpicking of racial features will not be as big of a deal, because I think overall people, while there are people that do care about this, I think that it's not the majority of people. I think at the end of the day, people are very simple and they just want um, they want to be happy within their bubble, and that's really what the pursuit of all these things are, such as a family, such as having an adequate income, such as having a stable economy. People aren't able to attain the things that they feel that they need, and that's what's leading to this growing dissatisfaction with government and also this analytical nature of race.
It's happening, and obviously it's getting progressively worse. Less so in the Senate, but the Senate's starting also. You get glimmers, when I'm in the back rooms talking to people, you get glimmers of statements that you say, whoa, where did that come from? So we have to be, Sid, we have to be very careful.
See, and the fact that he's just saying, like, where did that statement come from? I mean, I can kind of guess what he's alluding to as far as, obviously like racial comments, but maybe even just questioning, like, what is AIPAC doing? The fact that there's no acknowledgement of why people are asking this question is what is really disheartening, because this will only amplify the people that are very critical of Trump's perspective with AIPAC, because they will feel like they're not being heard. And that's another thing that I think will further amplify this, because they will continue to be louder and louder as far as trying to get the attention of the person that they want to hear this, the president. And he's not even acknowledging that he's listening. He hasn't even acknowledged that he's heard this complaint or even tried to understand where they're coming from. And to go back to my previous point about unlucky allies, it's like they will gravitate towards the person that will listen.
Careful, because it's bad things are happening, and then you see what goes on in Australia, or October 7th. How about October 7th? And then you have people that deny it ever happened. How about the people that deny, like they deny the Holocaust, but you figure, well, that's just many years. Well, October 7th is not many years at all. And you have people that deny October. I saw tape that I wish I never saw it, actually. I wish I never saw it. I got to see tape that some of you got to see, but as president, I got to see things I wish I never saw. But there's no denying it. But then they'll say, oh, the tape was a rigged tape. It was a tape that...
And see, that's what's crazy, is that now we're seeing the nature of these things that are objective fact becoming criticized. And I've said this before in my other videos, where even with Nick, I think in his previous interview, and I think it was either with Piers or Tucker, but he had said that one of the most poignant things that he said is, that everything is up to question at this point. Why shouldn't things be debated? If there is evidence that speaks louder than the consensus, then let the evidence speak for itself. And he's right to say that, where if there's an objective provable fact that is speaking louder than public opinion, then this should be heard. But this is the danger of letting this voice get so powerful, where even these things that like October 7th, which perceivably happened to the degree that it did, or even the Holocaust with the amount of deaths that happened, the slippery slope of not engaging with their point is that they are going to microanalyze every little thing to undermine the established ruling. And that's I think, this is a symptom of that, I would say. But also, with the nature of like the internet and everything online, people are just ultra skeptical too. So that's like another thing as well. But specifically within this race-based conversation, I truly think that this is a huge part as well. This is an unintended consequence of, not engaging with the points and the criticisms that they're bringing up, is that they're going to get more conspiracy brained, because they're not getting any official answers to the questions that they have. So they're going to fill the holes with ways that they can that make logical sense perceivably to them. And that's all that matters. You can argue that this is the truth versus what you believe, but at the end of the day, what a majority of people believe will become the truth. I mean, you look at flat earth, for instance, it's like if a majority of people started believing that despite evidence, that would be the reality of the world, unfortunately.
Never existed. They made it up. It's just propaganda. I don't know if they believe it. I don't think they believe it, but you have to be very, very careful. Bad things are happening, and we're not going to let that happen. While I'm president and the DOJ and Harmeet, we're not going to let it happen. But please, please be vigilant and careful, because you have some bad people that are now in Congress that were unthinkable to be in Congress 12, 13, 14 years ago, 15 years ago. Within
Overall, I think this speech was a good example to see a bad strategy with engaging in this discussion of anti-Semitism and the entanglement of AIPAC in our government, because I think that, two of the things that I think that he did wrong and that are contributing to the growing popularity of America First are his inability to engage with the actual discussion and the criticism, which is the close relationship of Israel and the United States government, and also his othering of his opposition. He is completely painting anyone who is opposed to the relationship of AIPAC and the United States as anti-Semitic. And as we saw with previous debates in the recent years, as far as, as I had stated before with the COVID vaccine, the debate around transgenderism, and even the debate around COVID mandates and other topics as well. Anytime you are arguing in absolutes, you are just pushing the more moderate opposition or the people who are undecided or maybe have some reservations about this specific topic. You are only pushing them to the other side, which is only making your opposition bigger. And I think that is a similar thing to what we will see here, where, if people like Trump or even Piers Morgan continue to engage in this debate with the mentality that they have been presenting, I think that this will actually only fan the flames and have the unintended consequence, of making their opposition only more appealing in the eyes of the public. But overall, if you agree or disagree, please consider leaving a comment on this video, because I think that this is a very interesting time to be looking at and talking about politics, because there have been some really crazy developments, I think, that are worth discussing. But yeah, if you made it this far, please take care and be safe and have a good one.